Good afternoon, Mr. Watts. Can you hear us?
Good afternoon.
Okay, good. Go ahead and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you are about to provide is true and accurate?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Jorde?
Please state your name.
Robert Watts.
And Mr. Watts, are you a Iowa landowner with ground in Wright County and a parcel that is being targeted by the proposed Summit Hazardous Pipeline?
Yes, I am.
And in preparation for today, sir, did you prepare certain pre-filed testimony, written question and answers, as well as some exhibits and attachments?
I did.
And rather than going through each and every one of the questions in your written pre-filed testimony, if I were to ask you those today, would your answers you gave then in the written form be substantially similar as if I asked you them today?
Substantially so, yes.
And do you have any errors that need to be corrected from your filed testimony?
I correct those before I filed it.
Okay, all right, very good. So nothing's jumped out at you. And then what if we move to updates of events or facts that may have occurred after approximately the end of July 2023?
Well, lots changed since then. Navigator's been denied. Illinois Commerce Commission staff denied Wolf, or recommended Wolf's application be denied. Summit was denied in South and North Dakota both. That affects my alternate route that was in my pre-filed testimony.
Okay, all right. So that might be kind of a combination / correction. So in your pre-filed testimony at that time, with the information you had, you suggested a potential alternative route if this board decided to approve it. But are you saying now, are you either withdrawing that, or would you have a new or different alternative route?
Well, I guess it wasn't an alternative route. It was an alternative to the going through my land. Right now, pipeline goes from Lincoln Way Energy in Nevada to Pine Lake Corn Processors in Steamboat Rock through my land to the essentially Corn LP in Goldfield. My original suggestion was to eliminate that whole thing and have Pine Lake Corn Processors and Lincoln Way Energy just connect the Navigator, since Navigator's lines were really close. Now, I know Summit wouldn't like that, but there's a reason that Summit could have gotten Poet, but they didn't. And there's a reason Poet didn't sign up, so I assume Navigator gives a lot better deal to the ethanol plant than Summit does. And I thought, well, shoot, just eliminate what goes through my land and let them hook up the Navigator. But that's not possible now. But it would be shorter Summit to go from Pine Lake Corn Processors north, connect to that big horizontal line that goes across the top of the state, than it would be to go to Corn LP.
Understood.
It's a shorter distance.
Understood. And so what I what I'm gathering is that your alternative route was based on facts that were inexistent at the time of your pre-filed testimony that have now materially changed. And just to be clear, I'll ask you again, are you withdrawing that alternative route, or does that still potentially stand for you?
Well, I might as well withdraw it because it's not possible now.
Okay, understood. And do you have a different alternative route now that this new information has come to light?
Well, my new alternative route would be to go from Pine Lake corn processors for Summit to run that straight north and hook onto up toward Mason City and hook onto that line.
Okay.
Because that's a shorter distance than it is to go to Goldfield.
So essentially what I guess we're getting at is not necessarily an alternative new route on your particular parcel, but essentially avoiding Franklin and the majority of Wright County altogether.
Correct.
Okay.
That saved a lot of people.
All right. Very, very good. So, sir, at this time, I'm going to offer as evidence your pre-filed testimony and initial attachments, which are 463 through 465.
No objection. Seeing no objection, the board will admit.
Thank you. And I would also then offer Exhibit 471 and 643.
Were there objections? Can you remind me what 471 is?
I sure can. That's Mr. Watt's Century Farm designation.
No objection to 471. We had filed an objection, of course, to 643 based on prior board precedent in the MVP 5 case and based on the prior agreement that Mr. Jorde and I had reached. I understand that the board has ruled on the companion part of that motion on 641, but just for the record, I renew the objection to 643.
Okay, the objection is noted. We will admit, sorry.
Yep. Thank you. With that, Mr. Watts, some other folks may have questions for you.
Fine.
Mr. Taylor?
Thank you. Mr. Watts, I'm Wally Taylor. I represent the Sierra Club. And first I have to ask you about your father. Ellery Watts, was he a court reporter?
Yes, he was.
I assume he's deceased now, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. Years ago when I started practicing, I was in Boone, and he was the court reporter for the judge there in Boone.
Yeah, he was a court reporter for probably Judge Shaw.
No, it was Judge Hellwich.
Okay, Hellwich. That was after Shaw.
Yeah, and in fact, he was one of the last court reporters to use the old the pen and paper method of taking shorthand.
Greg Shorthand.
Sorry for the bypass there, but so that's the property that you have. You grow crops there, right?
Correct.
Okay.
It's a
You said in your
50-50.
Pardon?
It's 50-50 crop share with a present tenant.
You said in your prepared testimony you're concerned about your drainage tile there. Are you aware that Summit has said that they would install the pipeline at least 2 feet under the drainage tile so as not to damage the tile?
I'd really like to see how they do that. Go under it. You got to fill in so the tile doesn't settle. And it looks to me like that's darn near impossible.
Okay.
I know that's what they say, but I don't. They say a lot of things.
And are you aware that Summit has said that they would repair any damaged tile?
Like I said, they say a lot of things. I don't believe them. And you can't get anybody else to come in and work around that.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
Talk to Tylers. They don't want it. They don't have to work around. They don't have to take the job. The liability isn't worth it. The risk isn't worth it to them. Fix a tile. Well, shoot, that isn't a very big job generally. I mean, they aren't going to make a living fixing tile. They got to lay tile.
In terms of risk, you've said that the risk of the Summit pipeline is too great. What kind of risk are you talking about there?
Well, rupture. Just huge.
What specifically?
Well, you've sat through all these hearings. You know that, look at Starship. If that had happened at night, people would have been dead. And the liability, you can't get insurance. Can't get liability insurance. My excess liability insurance doesn't cover pollution exclusion, is what they use. And that essentially just makes that land a time bomb.
Can we pull up the KMZ map, please? Does this look like your property that's on the screen there?
Yes, that shows my property. Also brings up something else. Shows my property in red. The property to the southeast, where the pipeline goes, and the property to the west of me both be red too. They aren't mine, but they're Exhibit H.
Okay, so
I'm sure Rod Stein hasn't signed an easement agreement, and I'm sure Rick Chostrafer hasn't. And it's deceptive as heck. They've done this for other people, shown that. If they're going to shade something, they should shade everything and leave the parcels that are talked about the original color of the Google Earth and shade the rest of them, because you see the details of the crop and stuff better. It also shows, on this, it shows the pipeline is a white line, but on the KMZ, if you bring it up in your computer, it's a red line going into red blocks. Makes it hard to see. And that's just done on purpose, I think, by Summit, to just obfuscate everything.
is this the route that you always were told that the pipeline would take?
No, this is actually the third different route. Essentially, they look about the same, except the original route, I saw the pipeline didn't have a 45-degree elbow in it. It went straight almost to the southeast corner of the property. And the next one, second version, it had a slight bend roughly where the 20 meets the 40 there, and just angled off probably a quarter of the way or something from the east end of my property out. So this is the last one. Doesn't really make too much difference, I don't think, except it puts an elbow there, which is a different
Does
It's got
the,
more wells and more chance for
does the
problem,
landowner,
I think.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just more problems, more chance of a rupture or something like that because of the elbow. Because there's more welds, more joints, and there's also erosion probably on the elbow itself, just from flow of fluid through it.
Does the landowner to your south, just to the south of your property, have they signed an easement, or do you know?
It shows red on the KMZ. The latest one she just filed a couple of days ago, I think, and that shows that red.
Okay. I was wondering if that person had signed an easement, if maybe the pipeline couldn't be routed just south of your property.
Well, it'd be nice if it could, but and it doesn't show the boundaries of his property. That southeast of my property, the part that's red is just a small fraction of that 40. So I don't know. In the south of the 40 acres, I'm sure who owns that. Don't know right off. Don't remember.
Have you discussed with any Summit agents or representatives about the issues that you've raised concerning the pipeline on your property?
No, I've actually only had, despite what their contact list says, I've only actually in person had one land agent. That was early. That was the first one. And he just gave me the copy of the easement agreement.
Did you ever have
I've had several phone calls, but I haven't had any discussion with him.
Did you ever have any discussions with anyone from Summit about the terms of the easement?
No.
Okay.
I did talk to some people from Summit at supervisors meetings, but discuss the terms of the easement at all.
What was the result of those discussions?
Well, I just got angrier. They weren't very productive.
So what happened at those supervisor meetings?
Well, at one of them, I don't remember which one was which, but see, you got to figure out which. Kaylee Wang from Turnkey Logistics was there. Bill Sullivan from Turnkey Logistics was there. And they're their acquisition people. They're permitting people, I guess. And at that time, they claimed that any new PHMSA regulations would be retroactive to the pipeline, and that's definitely not true. So I, don't put much faith in what they say.
Okay. I think if that's all the questions I have.
Ms. Hike?
Hi, I'm Chris Hike. I'm a landowner. And just looking at your pre-filed testimony, you had mentioned that it has caused stress and great impact and greatly impact the future plans to have to add additional drainage tile or any other plans. Have you sorted out the other plans that you would have for that piece of land?
If they put the pipeline through, my plan is essentially just keep doing what we're doing. But I'm an old man, and this land has been in my family since 1876, and I intend to leave it to other members of the family. But with a pipeline running through there, it's just a time bomb. Can't imagine. I wouldn't want to leave anybody that liability, potential liability, because there's no way to insure it, no economical way to insure it anyway. And essentially, it almost makes the land worthless. I can't imagine anybody buying the land with a pipeline on it. It just essentially makes your land worthless as far as I can see.
So you believe the value would be lessened?
Oh, it'd be tremendously lessened, I think. If anybody was thinking and checked into the insurance, I don't think they'd buy it.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Kaufman?
Mr. Watts, I'm Julie Kaufman. I'm a landowner, along with my husband in Shelby County. Do you know what size pipe they're planning to put on your land?
10-inch is what they say.
And do you understand that if that someone has requested that the Iowa Utilities Board grant them the legal rights to construct a 24-inch diameter pipeline on your land, so they could put it up to that much?
Well, that's the way it seems. They're gonna say it. They won't, but
So
I don't believe them.
They're telling you 10 inches, but they could put 24 inches. Is that your understanding?
That's my understanding, yes.
And you are hoping to leave this land to your, as a legacy to your family. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And are you worried that anyone who would live there would be in danger? And you wonder, and not only if the land is worth anything, if they tried to sell it.
Correct. I mean, it'd be an awful problem, I think, to them.
So do you see any kind of economic benefit to you or to Iowans from this project?
I don't see any economic benefit to anybody except the investors in the pipeline.
No further questions.
Go ahead, Ms. Colas.
Good afternoon, Mr. Watts. I'm Jean Colas, also a landowner, and I just have a few questions. This land has been in your family since 1876. Has it been your basic family agenda to improve the land from generation to generation?
Pretty much, yes. there was tile installed. Now you've got the tile map someplace, but
Do you
in the
feel that,
last 20,
do you feel
go
that,
ahead.
okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, there was tile installed fairly recently, and it probably could use more tile.
Can you show me on the KMZ map approximately or where this recent tile in your tile is located?
Well, I can't. It should be in my pre-filed testimony. There's tile map, and I've got the pipeline drawn in on it, and I think in red, but I don't have that here. Also,
Could we see that? Could that be brought up, that exhibit?
okay, there we are.
Okay, so the red line is the pipeline, so it just has a small area that is impacted by the construction of the pipeline, correct?
Correct.
Summit has made comment that they will make repairs to the pipeline, but in your opinion, it's not possible to disturb existing pipeline because of the settling involved if they dig underneath the pipeline. Is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
State the objection.
Asked and answered. He was asked previously whether or not he had heard that, I believe from Mr. Taylor, that Summit planned to repair, and his response was that they say that, but he wasn't convinced.
Okay, Ms. Colas.
You mentioned that you attended some of the public meetings and that you left angry at the supervisor meetings. Is that because of what the Summit representatives discussed at those meetings? Was it factual information in your opinion?
There's not been what I would consider factual information from Summit.
Do you feel that they have discussed with you the risks or hazards of this pipeline on your land?
Oh, there's been no discussion.
Looking at the line,
Personally,
are you concerned about compaction and how it will affect your income and your tenants' income since you do 50-50 crop share with them?
well, yes, that's been covered really well by other landowners in these hearings.
My opinion is you have a right to voice your opinion regardless. You have just as much right to speak as any other landowner or anybody affected.
There's people that are more expert than me on compaction, and they've given their opinions, and their opinions are, I yield to them. The opinions, the compaction, the soil damage is the same on my land as it is on theirs.
So in other words, you're acknowledging that you are in complete agreement with the concerns that other landowners have mentioned during the last 8 weeks of this IUB hearing.
Correct.
No further questions, thank you.
Okay, Board Member Burns.
Thank you. Mr. Watts, going back through my notes here, I believe your neighbor's last name, if I got this correct, Hochrafer? Is that a name?
Correct.
Directly
Yes.
to directly to the west of your land, correct?
Correct.
All right. According to my notes, when they presented or when they talked, they had suggested, I believe, an alternative route that looks like directly on the south end of their property. Have you talked to your neighbor about anything like that? We're moving the pipeline to the south end, and it would go across the south end of your parcel as well, or not?
I've talked to them, but not about that. It'd be better all the way to the south,
Okay.
along the, essentially, see that my south boundary is the section line. There's no road at that section line.
Okay. Nope, I just wanted to expand on that and see if the two of you had visited about that or not. Because according to my notes, I have a dead ending right at your property. I didn't want to assume anything, so. But thank you for that response.
Okay, Mr. Jorde for redirect.
So related, again, to that alternative route, has Summit proposed any alternative routes to you or ever intimated that they'd be willing to work with you on any route changes?
No, like I said, let's see. I don't believe, well, I did have one phone conversation with a land agent where that was the first phone conversation I had nothing to do with the, but it had to do with compensation. And I told him at that time he could offer me $4.5 billion, which was and I wouldn't take it. That was when the projected cost of that land or pipeline was $4.5 billion. Now they're saying $5.5 billion. Because it's not for sale.
Sure, and also true that there's things more important than money, such as your rights and peace of mind.
Correct.
All right, sir. Thank you. I don't have anything further.
Thank you, Mr. Watts. We appreciate your testimony. You're dismissed. Mr. Jorde?
Yes, Dr. Eric Palmquist. Oh, sorry. I'm looking around. He's going to be virtual. He's going to be online.